what's good, y'all? It's your boy JD6 here. I'm with my man. Shout out to KC Sports Authority. Make sure y'all go check that podcast out, man.
You heard the man. The legend, the one and only Jacque Vaughn has been named the next assistant coach for the Kansas basketball program, and we are super psyched to talk about it. And fellas, we just might be.
We are back, baby. We're back. Yeah. Classic. We are back. We are back.
Kansas basketball just might be back. Welcome in, everybody.
Oh.
KC Sports Authority podcast. Keegan Russell, JB Marker, and the old man, Austin Eckert, the recently graduated. Congratulations.
He's an old man.
Now an alumni, Kansas basketball.
Yep. I already feel like I'm 80 years old.
Yeah. Welcome to the club. But we got a lot to get into tonight, guys. It's been a lot of news in the last couple of days. And as we get going here, Duncan King, welcome in. Good evening, men. Good evening to you. Thank you for joining us live.
What's up?
If you are checking us out over here on YouTube, make sure you're smashing that subscribe button below, as well as hitting the thumbs up so that more Jayhawk fans like yourself find the show. If you're checking us out on Spotify later, you can also follow the podcast, give us a 5-star rating and review. Leave us some comments on there. You can hit us up on any of our social medias below, as you see on the screen there, at KCSA Pod. But, guys, we got a lot to get into. We've got, obviously, the news of Jacque Vaughn being named the next assistant basketball coach at the University of Kansas. Had a visit last week. We talked a little bit on last week's episode about that. But super pumped about that. Got a lot to get into on there. We got to talk a little bit about Darrion Williams, who was on his official visit yesterday, just hours after announcing his departure from the NBA draft and returning to college, and what the race for that looks like between here, Texas Tech and NC State. So we'll get into that. And I think the first thing, though, before we get into basketball, we got to take a moment here and talk about another Kansas athletics program that is just having one heck of a year. And shout out to Coach Dan Fitzgerald, a friend of the show, Coach Fitzgerald. I've had a chance to talk with him the last 2 seasons. Named Big 12 Coach of the Year. So deserving of that. Kansas finishes second in the Big 12 at 20-10. Most program wins in the history of the program for Big 12 play. Just finishing behind West Virginia, unfortunately, despite the fact that we beat them on the road 3 times, took the series.
Swept them.
But West Virginia finishes as the 1 seed. KU finishes as the 2 seed. But Big 12 tournament gets underway tomorrow, Thursday. I believe the Hawks are playing Oklahoma State, as I saw earlier. And I think the Hawks are primed for a Big 12 championship. They've got a really solid pitching matchup the next 3 nights. I think they have an edge there. So wanted to take a second here and just shout out KU baseball. I know, Austin, you've been to a ton of games this year. You've been able to see them firsthand. And I know that, like, students like yourself also got to see firsthand the excitement. And between the high-powered offense and the excitement from the stands, this has definitely been a KU baseball season to remember, regardless of how it ends. But it definitely feels like these Jayhawks are now the hashtag Omahawks, because I think no matter how they do in Big 12 play, they're going to Omaha with a chance to get into the college baseball World Series playoff run and do some damage. What do you think?
I mean, why not? I mean, this team has been hot all season long. I mean, it was really cool being at all the games this season. And I know the student section kind of died down a little bit towards the end of the season. I mean, after the Missouri game, there weren't a whole lot of students attending games, I must say. But that's because, I think, there was an issue with, some of the students, chanting obscenities and all that and getting kicked out for it. So, there was a little bit of, tension there. But, man, being a part of the student section, though, during baseball season was unbelievable. It was unlike anything I had ever been a part of, really. And I don't really think I've ever, sat in a student section for a baseball game. I mean, I've been to KU baseball games before this season, but it was nothing like, this past season. I mean, or this season rather. It was unbelievable, and I thought it was a really good season. And to the West Virginia winning the regular season title, I think they screwed up there. But at least they got the head coach of the year award right. So I'll give the Big 12 that. But,
it's true.
winning winning the tournament would be, pretty much giving a middle finger to the Big 12. Like, hey,
It
you
would.
should have given us the regular season award. So we won the whole dang tournament. So, apologize right now. So that's my hope for the tournament. I think KU can go on and win the whole thing. They made the semis last year for the first time since 2013. I believe.
Yeah, they were close.
Oklahoma.
They had a really good shot against Oklahoma and just came up short.
Yeah, they got walked off by Oklahoma, I think, with a 2-run shot. So, I mean, they're literally right there. I mean, they have the potential to make it to the championship game. And, I mean, if they don't win that game, then that's going to suck. But, I mean, if they make it to the championship game, I think at least it'll be a successful run in the Big 12 tournament,
Absolutely.
I think, for us.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but we didn't touch on this quite yet. But for anyone that's confused, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but we had the most Big 12 wins in Big 12 play throughout the college baseball season in the Big 12. We had the most wins. So you might ask, how does the team with the most wins not win the Big 12? And I guess there were some weather delays or something for West Virginia.
There were fires. There were some fires that suspended the West Virginia Oklahoma State game back earlier a couple months ago. So that series never took place.
So ultimately, KU ended up technically, I'm assuming, a half game behind. But
they finished 20-10. West Virginia 19-9. If I'm not mistaken. So they win by winning percentage, despite the fact that KU took all 3 games against West Virginia this year. That should have been the tiebreaker, if you're asking me.
I think yes, that should have been the tiebreaker. But first, they should have looked at who has the most wins. I mean, I understand if weather and delays and things happen, but why weren't these games ever made up? Why weren't these games ever made good? It's just
good point. It's a valid point.
They do that in the MLB. They make good games that they have to. Even in my job, someone misses a TV commercial, I have to do a make good. I have to put it in for another time later, to make it good, to make up for the fact that we missed it. I mean, it's just one of those things that to me doesn't really make sense. And you can argue you can probably argue the other side, but to me, it's like, I think we know who the best team in the Big 12 really was. Yeah. And it was us. And it
we swept them.
Hopefully we can ride that momentum and win the Big 12 tournament and go on and win the College World Series.
But would love to see it, because this would go down as the greatest season in KU baseball history up to this point. I had a guy, I was on a different podcast this week, and they were asking me, he's like, so is KU known for having much of a baseball school? And I was like, no,
not really.
No. KU baseball and KU football being bad were like one and the same for a long time. So this is great. Dan Fitzgerald's been wonderful. Hopefully we can get him back on here after the season's over.
Yeah, got to go back and watch our old episodes. Like Keegan has sat down with Coach Fitzgerald earlier.
Twice now. Yep.
Twice. Yeah, we have podcasts on this channel of previewing this season, this current season.
Yeah, previewing this season. So, And it was Omaha. Omaha was the goal, and they were going to pick up where they left off last year. So
how cool!
Props to them. Props to Coach Fitzgerald. Just congratulations on the year you've had so far. But as Kobe says, up 2-0. Job ain't finished yet.
Let's
go get it done. Let's go win the Big 12 this weekend and then get it going for the College World Series tournament. But let's switch gears now, because, guys, Jacque Vaughn is back. And for the old heads, the old Jayhawk fans to the new Jayhawk fans, this is exciting for all of us. Jacque Vaughn was my favorite player, my first favorite player growing up. My mom explicitly remembers me running around the house saying, I'm Jacque Vaughn, with this little basketball in my hand, my basketball goal. So I've been ecstatic for this hire for a long time. It's one we've been talking about as a potential for several years now, as a guy that looked at it, that could make his way back to Kansas in some capacity. He came in for a visit last week, left. There was, nothing, really no talk of it as far as what was going on. A week later, it's announced that he has agreed to become the next assistant coach of Kansas. There's a lot of speculation. A few people I talked with was, he's only going to come here if KU names him the head coach in waiting for after Bill Self retires, and that's why it's taken so long. He's weighing out NBA offers. Whatever it was, doesn't matter. He is the next assistant coach. We'll find some details out later as to what that means. Is he the first assistant? Is Jeremy Case the first assistant? What is that? What's the rest of the shakeup on the staff going to be? And it's still probably the first of some couple more staff moves to come from what I understand. But super pumped about Jacque Vaughn. He was probably the preference of most of the fan base. It was the most obvious choice. The Jacque Vaughn, Aaron Miles, Frank Mason were the names being thrown out there. Jacque Vaughn made the most sense. So I figured I'd take just a moment here just to go through his coaching career for those that don't understand. NBA, very different game. Coaches are not successful that often. So he had an uphill battle. Now, Jacque Vaughn has bounced around a little bit. After he retired, he was an assistant coach with the Spurs in 2010 through 2012. Learning under Greg Popovich, one of the best to ever do it. And shout out to Popovich, who is retiring from the sidelines, one of the best to ever do it. After that, then he was the head coach for the Orlando Magic for 2 full seasons, 2 miserable seasons. They were very, very bad. 20-62 in his first year, 23-59 in the second year.
That wasn't his fault, though.
No, bad team, bad franchise. They had no talent. It was his first opportunity. Starts year 3. 15-37 before getting canned throughout the season. Then moves on to Brooklyn, where he was an assistant coach for 4 years in Brooklyn. He's been in Brooklyn really for the last 8 seasons because he was the interim head coach after they kicked Steve Nash to the curb. So they went from one Hall of Fame point guard to one legendary college basketball point guard, and giving Jacque Vaughn the reins temporarily to finish out the part of the season. Then he stayed on as the assistant coach for the next 3 years before finally taking over the franchise as a whole, and being the head coach for 2022-2023, where he finished 43-32. They actually looked pretty decent for what they had. He had to deal with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Ben Simmons. He's had to deal with all of that. Didn't get off to a good start this last year in 2023-2024. Gets fired a little over halfway through the season and has been unemployed since then. But a guy that I think KU fans obviously are going to love because of his background with Kansas. But I think he's going to bring a lot to the table from the NBA perspective. A guy that's been in the game for nearly 20 years now, 10 years playing and 10 years in the coaching side, 10 to 12 years coaching side, who's going to understand what the NBA wants out of players. And I think from a developmental standpoint, he's going to be very crucial for the development of Kansas basketball moving forward. We have spent 10 years saying we need a guy like Danny Manning back to help develop the big men, to get them ready for what's next. And Jacque Vaughn, while he's not going to be the big man developer per se, he's going to come in and help these guys prepare for the next level because he knows what is required of an NBA player at the next level. So I'm ecstatic. That's enough for me. I've talked for about 4 minutes about Jacque Vaughn now. So let me kick it over to you guys and any of you watching in the comment section. If you're joining us live, thank you so much. Up to 75 people right now. So if you're watching us on YouTube, drop all your comments below about the Jacque Vaughn hiring, your takes on it, what you think. If you're on Twitter, send us a tweet, give us a reply if you're watching live on Twitter to your guys' thoughts on Jacque Vaughn. So fellas, take it away.
Yeah, can't say it enough. Comment, and Keegan's going to keep an eye on those comments, and he's going to post them up as we go. I think this is I can't say really too much negatives about this hire. I really think Keegan really hit it on the head with just his experience and getting guys ready for the next level. That's what this game has really evolved into. Keegan started off by saying the NBA is really it's a different game than college, and I think we've all known that. But I would counter that by saying that that's been more true in years of past. Like now with NIL and everyone getting paid, and it's this free market and the transfer portal. Oh my goodness, college basketball is turning more and more into the NBA. As much as I hate to say it, it's becoming a lot more like the NBA.
It's becoming a professional league for sure.
It is. So now we're kind of to bring in a name that has been in that NBA stratosphere, teams that have struggled. I mean, I'm not going to look at his coaching resume and and look at it and think, oh man, like he can't coach in the NBA, so he can't coach in college. I mean, it's just it really is two different beasts. And I think it's an age thing. I think it's a talent thing. I think it's a culture thing when it comes to repping your school, and there's just so many factors. But I don't think you can discount that we are taking a guy that has been a head coach in the NBA. You know, there's only I love what Derek Johnson was saying on Locked On Jayhawks about it, that there's really only 30 head coaching NBA spots in the entire world, right? And there's hundreds and hundreds, thousands of college coaching jobs, right? Like across D1 and D2 and all these divisions, and you're looking at it, all of a sudden it's like, man, you can suck in the NBA, but you can be really freaking good at the college level. And he's still on an assistant level, and I don't know if I buy into, hey, he needs to be named head coach in waiting. Would I be really upset with that? A little 50-50. I think there's names that I would be interested in, and I would think Travis Goff is going to keep his options open for when the day comes that Bill Self does retire, that he doesn't want to immediately say it's Jacque Vaughn, end of story. I think we would have our options open. This is a good thing for this program. This is someone with experience. This is someone with the winning attitude that we've wanted. I mean, when he was a player at Kansas, he ran the best team that Kansas has ever had.
Yeah, probably the most talented team we've ever had.
He ran the show. Yeah, he ran the show. If you run the show for the best college team that a program has really ever had, arguably the best team that a program has ever had, I like you. Okay, he's very dominant, and I would love to have that mentality on our coaching staff, and now we have it, so I can't really complain.
Awesome. Before you give your take here, Jayhawk Edits, appreciate you hopping in. What'd you have for dinner? And second, Jayhawk Edits, I almost messaged you earlier to get permission to steal some of your clip on Jacque Vaughn that you posted on YouTube. So if you guys haven't checked that out, I went back and watched Jayhawk Edits, post on Jacque Vaughn's highlights, and man, I know the video is grainy from back in the day. You can't really see things very detailed, but man, Jacque Vaughn could hoop. And he's got so many tremendous plays, the step back three, the spin move in the lane to get the layup in. Just a tremendous all-around athlete. So go check out. That is 2 minutes of your life that you will not regret.
Yeah, I really like this hire. I mean,
first off, hey, what did you have for dinner? I know you were out,
I showed my cup, Canes.
That's right. Okay, sorry.
That's right.
Yeah, it was right down the street from my hotel. I was like, I can't pass.
I guess, yeah. What are you doing here? I know, not to get a sidetrack, but some of the listeners might want to know. You're graduated. What are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing?
All right. Well, right now I'm calling a little college baseball tournament here in Kansas City. It's for the NCCAA, which is another like subdivision of college athletics. It's for specifically the Christian schools in the entire country. So they all come together here in Kansas City, and it's a big tournament. I mean, there's teams from like Michigan, California, Texas. I mean, they all come from all different parts of the country. So I'm calling the championship game tomorrow. We got a team from Springfield playing Missouri, and another one in California going at it. So it should be a good one. That's my buddy Alex who commented that. So him and I graduated together. So that was cool. Shout out Alex. He's watching this at Luis's West with a beer in his hand, and he's laughing his butt off right now.
Hey, well, get the 2,500 people around you at Luis's West right now to also hop in here and drop some comments below.
Yeah, tell him to subscribe, please. Thanks, Alex.
Might get around to beers on me in the future. Who knows?
Hey, Luis's West is one of my favorite spots. It's one of my favorite spots. I mean, like I try to not tell everybody that I go to West, and so does Alex. And I mean, I'm speaking to a lot of people on here, but it's the summertime, so it's like I'm not really giving away Luis's West. I mean, anybody that's been to KU has probably been to Luis's West at least once.
True.
It's a really good spot to kind of, just get away from everything. And, if you need to go get a drink, I think Luis's West is the perfect place to do it. So, yeah, I like the JV hire a lot too, folks. Yeah, I want D5 on the Jayhawks too.
Yeah, feed D5. We are officially back. But
Yeah.
which we'll get into. We'll talk about that in a
Anyways,
few minutes.
Yeah. Anyways, no, I really like this hire. I mean, and I agree with everything that JB said about JV. I mean, not only does he bring the mentality that this team desperately needs right now, especially in this whole world of NIL and those things. You got a guy in the NBA that's experienced and has coached in the NBA, and also got one of those 1 out of 30 NBA jobs. I mean, it's not like everybody gets an NBA job. So I mean, he's been coaching for a while. He's full of experience. I mean, getting a guy that's played on the team too and is a former KU alum. I mean, he's or rather a KU alum, not a former KU alum. I mean, like having a KU alum now on your coaching staff, it's a big plus. And so having a guy that's played basketball at KU and has coached at the top level for so many years, I think it's going to elevate this basketball squad. Hopefully it does. I mean, I know the fan base can't take 3 more years of this whatever has been going on. I mean, that they need to change, and I think this is a step in the right direction.
You got to think about like the guys that he has had as a coach or coached alongside. I mean, my God. Roy Williams, come on, man! Like
he coached Jalen Wilson. I mean, look at what Jalen Wilson's doing right now in the NBA. I mean, it all started with Jacque Vaughn,
sophomore year,
and he's doing really well.
Exactly,
I mean,
and like Coach Pop. Oh my God! Like you want to talk one of the greatest coaches of all time? I think that
he's the GOAT.
He's at the very least in the conversation for greatest of all time in coaching. So it's like, and now he's he gets
best coach ever.
Basketball. Now he gets to work alongside Bill Self. Like, man, he didn't play for Bill Self, but now he can work alongside Bill Self, and it's very, very sweet to see this all coming together. So, and to kind of jump back to Poke's comment, yes, we do have a need for another scorer, another scoring threat, another top guy to really feel like, okay, like we mean business. But I know as Keegan is planning to go over here, maybe very soon, maybe we're segueing, but we have something in the works. And if
we'll talk about it. Before we get there, there's a couple things I want to read, some statements from the athletic program from Jacque Vaughn and Bill Self about the hire. And then I want to give a couple more pointers as to why Jacque Vaughn's hiring is good for the short and long term. Just a couple other benefits. But first off, welcome home, Jacque Vaughn. Super pumped. Meant to throw that up earlier.
Great
courtesy
graphic.
Of KU basketball Twitter. From Jacque, or I'm sorry, this is from Coach Self. We're very excited to welcome Jacque and his wife Laura into the fold. I've known Jacque from a distance for several years now and have always admired how he has conducted himself professionally and how he has treated people. I think he will be an excellent addition to our program while also serving as a great mentor, coach, and representative of Kansas basketball. We lost an awesome coach in Norm Roberts when he retired, but feel very fortunate to have replaced him with a tremendous Jayhawk that has a unique and impressive resume. So those thoughts from Bill Self. And then from Jacque himself earlier today, I'm truly honored and overwhelmed with the excitement to return to my alma mater and join Coach Self's staff as an assistant coach. The game of basketball has provided me the incredible privilege to mentor, coach, and compete alongside some of the best in the game. I couldn't pass up the opportunity to bring those experiences back to the school that means so much to me. It's a blessing to once again be part of the Jayhawk tradition.
That's right.
So other benefits of Jacque Vaughn. Obviously, the NBA stuff I think is huge. You look at the team a couple years ago when Jalen Wilson was the focal point. It was a very NBA-style offense. Having KJ being the small ball 5, going with athleticism, pick and roll, the short roll to the base side, getting mid-lane jumpers open when need be, and moving the ball a lot. That's a very NBA spread-type offense. Now, because of roster decisions the last 2 years, I think Bill Self was a little limited in how the offense could look. And I think KU fans as a whole want to see something that is more aesthetically pleasing, first off, watching. It was not very fun watching the offense the last 2 years.
No.
And I think Jacque Vaughn's going to bring a lot of that because of the way the NBA style plays. There's a lot more motion. There's a lot more free range movement of guys around. Showcasing athleticism, and KU's got a lot of athletes on this roster now. So I do think the offense is going to see an uptick as far as style. I think this is a guy that he's not going to come in and just run exactly what Bill Self wants him to run. He's going to bring ideas to the table and say, hey, here's things we should try. Here's things I see that are effective with this type of player. here's things we should try. And you think about a guy like Darren Peterson, who's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. Jacque Vaughn should be a guy that has a lot of ideas on how to run an offense with a player like that, considering a lot of players in the NBA have the ball in their hands all the time. So I think the offense is going to be a big focal point with Jacque Vaughn being here, and developing a more NBA-ready style offense that helps guys pick up the NBA style quicker, but leads to a little bit more up-tempo, faster pace, smoother offense, which is something I do think Bill Self also wants to run. I think you could see on his face last year, there was so much frustration on his face that things weren't working. And he was not just throwing the hands up, but a lot of the, sitting there like, man, these guys just can't run what I want them to run because they're not skilled enough athletically to do that. So I think that's going to be a huge bonus moving forward. Obviously, from the fan base perspective, young or old, Jacque Vaughn is one of the most beloved Jayhawks in KU basketball history. And he's going to be one that the fan base as a whole is going to get on board with completely. They're going to surround him with support. There's probably going to be a lot more donors out there. They're going to give some more money back to Kansas. He's going to be a great focal point to the fan base, a voice to the fan base from that perspective to get behind and rally behind. Because he, like JB said, probably on the most talented Kansas basketball team, definitely the most talented team to not win a title, first off.
Yeah.
One of the most talented teams we've ever seen in Kansas basketball history, which was probably before Austin's time because he's an old man now, but he's just enough of a baby that you would have missed that time. So that's going to be huge for the fan base.
I feel like it.
I think he's also going to be able to connect with the players well because of how he has to relate at the NBA level with his guys. He has to deal with a lot of egos and agendas day to day. And coming back to the college ranks where it's much more of a team-friendly mindset, but with the way NIL has brought in to the game, there's a lot more individuality and egos building in. So I think Jacque's going to be a good guy to help maintain that. And I think he's going to be a guy that's just going to come in and players are going to learn from him. They're going to respect him. Not that they weren't respecting the guys before them already, but they're going to see, hey, you had a little bit of NBA success. You're one of the greatest all time to play here. We're going to listen to what you have to say. So a lot of benefits with Jacque. I don't know how much he's going to be used in the recruiting side personally. My assumption is looking at the rest of this staff currently. I do think another move is I think KT and or Doc Sadler and or Joe Dooley are probably one of those three is probably also gone at some point this summer. Not going to get into. I had somebody tell me why they think Doc Sadler's here, and I don't want to get into any of that because it's not appropriate for public conversation. You don't want to not to bash the guy at all, but I think there's a reason Doc Sadler's here that's not necessarily basketball related. But anyways,
No.
It's private matter. He's had health concerns over the
Oh.
years, and we think it's insurance related. That
Interesting.
not that
Okay.
anything weird's going on, but
Nothing
he needs
scandalous.
he needs to have good health insurance, and so
Okay.
being on staff, he can have a really good university health insurance. So because I don't know what he brings to the table anymore. So I think there's still some shakeup, but how I see it currently, Jacque Vaughn's probably coming in as the lead assistant. I think Jeremy Case and Chase Buford are the other two assistants moving forward. I think there'll be some shuffling around. I think Jeremy Case will be your director of scouting. He'll be the focal point for scouting and recruiting. And Chase Buford, I think Jeremy Case will probably do a lot more of the recruiting side, and Chase Buford will be the scouting side as far as scouting opponents and watching game tape. So I think those two are going to have a big step up in this. Chase Buford has some of the NBA connection as well, being a G League coach, winning a G League championship for the Milwaukee Bucks with former Jayhawk Frank Mason, as well as coaching overseas. Yes, we've all seen the stressed out, hair's a mess photo of him. But he's been around the NBA franchises long enough for several years to know the ins and outs. And I think he's going to be one that'll have some impact on the recruiting side. Jeremy Case, I think he's also a fantastic recruiter from what I've heard. He's been much more instrumental the last couple of years in different recruiting cases going on. So I think he's going to take a big step up in factor. And then I think Jacque Vaughn's your X's and O's guy. He's going to be part of the day-to-day strategy of helping Bill Self construct the roster and take the guys he's got and put the most effective team on court. So I think those three guys are probably going to be the main ones moving forward. Wouldn't be surprised if a guy like KT announces he's retired. If I'm not mistaken, I think his daughter graduated this year or something like that. So, not as much holding him, not as much keeping him here in Lawrence moving forward. Maybe he goes off and retires. Dooley, I don't know. I don't have anything bad to say about the guy, but again, I don't know what he does currently. The last year and a half, KU's been really good at not explaining what their 12-person staff does.
Oh, my
Again,
favorite.
we've talked about it before on the podcast. We don't need to get into all of it, but I think there's still a couple moves to still be had on the staff side, and maybe still another former player like a Frank Mason or something joins the staff.
I'm telling you, I just want KT to be gone and then bring in Marcus Morris like in his place. Like bring in one of the Morris twins in his place.
And I've said this before,
it.
you can't have one without the other, and both might be too much. I don't know. That's a lot of
Don't say
Morris
that.
twins. I think Marcus is going to enjoy being more as a commentator the next year or so on Countdown and all that kind of stuff. But still could see some more roster turnover there as far as the staff goes. But let's switch gears over to the roster itself in a second. John, let's see what he got. John, what do you think Jacque will bring to the table with his NBA coaching experience in this era of the NIL? Well, if you missed it already, John, I'll kind of recap what I said. I think the fact that he knows the NBA game so well from the last 10 years, he's going to have a good idea of what players should expect once they get to that level, and he can start that development process early. So he can take a guy like Darren Peterson and say, hey, you're great, you're a 5-tool athlete, but here's the things you're probably going to need to focus on at the next level based on how you're going to project out. He's going to be able to look at a guy like Marco Jackson, do the same thing and say, hey, you're a superstar athlete, you're coming back from knee injury. Here's the aspects of the game that you need to develop to carve out a nice role in the NBA. I think he's going to be able to do that just because of the time he spent working with guys. We've seen some of the development he had with the Brooklyn Nets. Nets were not a really good team by any means, but they had a lot of talented individual pieces that took next steps over the last couple of years in their development. And I think Jacque is crucial in that. Hopefully with the NIL era as well, with the money, he can be an advisor and a mentor of sorts and say, hey, I've seen guys come in the league that get all these contracts up front. Here's how they handled money. Here's how they did it poorly. So I think he could shed some light on there too. But from the X's and O's standpoint, I think the player development with Jacque here will be huge. I think he's gonna have a good idea as to, like a guy like Flory, hey, you've got a tremendous raw talent and athletic upside. Here's the aspects of your game we need to focus on in practice so that you can get to the next level and be successful. So
yeah, think about like the NBA Combine, like all the guys that go to the Combine after every season, except for this past season, which is ludicrous, by the way. Just it totally explains our 7 seed. We had 0 invites to the Combine. Anyway.
Still surprised that Zeke didn't get an invite because he's one of the better shooters in this draft class still.
But that being said, I mean, these guys, they test the waters, right? And then they come back having gotten a lot of feedback on what they need to work on. With Jacque Vaughn, it's like you're having that NBA Combine feedback all year round. That's pretty epic, in my opinion.
And that just reminded me of what you texted us earlier about a former player and his current endeavors in the job market.
Oh my God! Okay. Shifting all gears. Everyone,
should I play the video?
Play the video if you have it.
Let me see if I can find it.
Because this was so funny. We've been talking about this, like we've been making jokes on KU Twitter all season long about where this certain player is going after the end of the season and what he needs to do at the end of the season, or honestly what he needs to do leading up to the end of the season because he ain't going into the pros. Did I waste enough time? Did you pull it up?
Yeah, I got it. Let me
okay, pull it up.
Let me share screen here and see if this works.
Should I say it? Should I say who it is? Hunter!
You're going to get a scholarship offer some coaches and doing brand deals for skincare products. Then it's crickets. Over 2,800 points, 1,500 rebounds, 7 years of college eligibility. The NIL money. So preparing to end my career, did what an AF is do. I got on LinkedIn. LinkedIn every step of your job search. LinkedIn helps you figure out what's next and who's hiring. Now I'm building towards my next career off the court. Visit LinkedIn and dare to discover your next job opportunity. I'll see you out there.
And he was like, he was like messaged all my haters or whatever. And that's because we all season long we were telling them like get your resume ready on LinkedIn. Oh, like you better be submitting some job applications on LinkedIn. We were saying this all season long. That stuff is so funny. And honestly, shout out to you, Hunter. Shout out to you, Hunter, for like recognizing that and being like,
he
you know
gets
what?
it. He knows.
I'll just say, hey, shout out to all my haters or whatever he said, right? Like
He's
that
making
was
plenty of money.
so funny. And now he's got this LinkedIn ad that he's running. Hilarious. And he's literally throwing shade at himself, like, look at all my points, look at all my rebounds. But what am I doing? I'm submitting applications on LinkedIn because I ain't going to the pros.
No,
Like,
that was
oh
great.
man,
That was hilarious.
so funny. God, I love that.
Anyway, let's get into portal update. Let's talk about the
Portal.
roster. I don't even remember, did we talk about Corbin Allen last week?
Oh God, I don't
we
think we did. I don't think
Okay.
we did.
I don't
No,
think
that
it was official yet.
It was not. No.
But I guess latest update, Corbin Allen out of Kansas City signed to the roster, 3-star prospect out of Kansas City, Oak Hill Academy. Excuse me, same high school as Ochai Agbaji, where he actually broke Ochai Agbaji's career scoring record. Coached by Sharon Collins this last year, won a state championship. He signs out with Kansas, 6'4" guard. Definitely a developmental piece. This is a move of we're not going to have that many options on the bench as far as practice players go, with walk-ons probably not being much of a thing anymore. So he's going to be an end of the rotation guy, a guy that you could develop. I do think he's a guy that could carve out a nice little role like a Jamari McDowell, a decent wing. He's got really good athleticism, decent spot up shooter, can shoot from the corner. Not really good at anything, but solid at a lot of things. So he's a well-rounded athlete. And he's getting, probably not going to have any impact this year. Could even redshirt this year, but just another depth piece to this team moving forward. A guy that maybe a year or two from now has an impact. But wanted at least to just take a quick second to talk about Corbin Allen. We talked last week. There are no big men in the portal for KU to go after, and a week later there are negative big men in the portal for KU to go after. So that's still a glaring need on this team as they back up big. Right now it's Flory Badunga and then Bryson Tiller. Haven't seen anything on Patrick Suemnick yet on what he's doing. Some of the other guys, JB, I guess you can give us your update on the 3 guys that you liked have all signed elsewhere.
Oh yeah, I don't even remember everyone.
Dr. Bradley went somewhere.
Yeah.
Baba Miller
Oh
went
yeah.
somewhere. Yeah. Anyway, all the guys that JB talked about last
Reese
week that he was
Potter.
interested in have all signed. So still a big
Papa
glaring
Conte.
need there. Papa Conte, that was the other one. Papa
Yeah,
Conte's
like
gone.
they're all gone, and it's so annoying. I believe there literally is. If you look at 24/7 Sports and you look at the transfer portal rankings, it goes down to like 457 total players that are ranked in the portal, and there is, the last time I looked, which was yesterday, one center remaining, and I'm pretty sure he hasn't even gotten a call from KU. So
Yep.
not really not loving that, and it's kind of like, I mean, but he was also ranked in like the 300 range, so it's not like it was anyone that was really special. But not saying we need someone super special. We need somebody to come in and just be a backup. Flory's our guy, and we've got Bryson Tiller, sure, but like I don't want to roll into a season with just 2 guys 6'8" or taller. Like,
It's definitely not enough.
What are we doing? Like,
With one coming off an injury and one that is foul prone, that's not 40.
God.
There's not 40 minutes right there to fill currently.
Imagine Bryson Tiller is. Oh, let me cross my fingers and knock on wood. Hopefully this doesn't happen. Imagine Bryson Tiller is hurt, Flory's in foul trouble, and we're putting Trey White at the 5.
So right now you're running Trey White out there.
What? Like, that sounds awful, and he's getting like clobbered by some guy who's like 7'2". Like, I'm not looking forward to that at all. We need somebody. It's probably going to come from an international market, but then again,
it's got to be. There's this. I've been trying to scour the NBA side too of guys that could withdraw their name, and I haven't come across very many yet that are big men prospects that could come back. But Austin, look like you have a thought there you want to get into.
Oh no, I was just kind of scrolling through Twitter a little bit. I could have sworn we had a guy from like Oklahoma State come for a visit as our like
That's
backup
Patrick
yeah.
big
Sweat.
guy.
Yeah, Pat.
That was okay.
Yep.
Okay, so you already touched on that. Sorry,
Yeah, that we
I missed
talked about
it
him
down
a couple
little.
weeks ago.
He's a
Okay,
little undersized,
so
though.
He's 6'8", 230. He's not a big guy. He's not good at anything necessarily. He'll be he's
Yeah.
average. He's been a career 10 to 12 minute a night kind of guy. Doesn't really offer you much, but role player.
I thought maybe he had committed, but I guess he only just.
I don't think
visited,
I've seen anything yet.
No. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, that's what I was kind of looking at because we were like, oh, there's no more bigs in the portal, and I was like, wait, aren't we looking at one right now?
Yeah, he hasn't said anything yet that I know of.
Okay. Gotcha.
It's just sad. It's sad. There's nobody available, except for one name in particular who, Austin is very familiar with and has pulled his name out of the draft.
Who could that be? I don't know who that is. I don't know. Who's D5? I don't know.
Never heard of him.
Never
heard of the guy. He totally didn't, put up 30 points last time KU went to Lubbock, had a perfect game, got 11 rebounds, didn't miss a single shot. Bill Self got ejected for the first time in 20+
Dude,
years,
really?
That's actually
forgot.
true. I can't remember the previous time he had gotten ejected. I think he was when he was at like Tulsa, I think. I could be wrong. On that. Somebody correct me in the comments about Bill Self's ejection prior to the Texas Tech one. But that was like the first
where's
time
Sully when you need him? He's always got these obscure stats pulled up.
I can't believe it. Darrion Williams out of Texas Tech, everybody, has been, has been entertaining the draft process, has been at the combine, has been
no longer in the draft process.
He has been doubling down on his commitment recently to the draft. I think the last time we recorded, we had just seen a clip of him that day that was making its rounds on Twitter of him doubling down on his commitment to the NBA draft process, to feeling out the teams. And of course, everyone's going to say that. No NBA scout is going to want to see, oh, this guy's got 1 foot in, 1 foot out. But so he obviously doubled down, and you take it with a grain of salt. But
then his measurables came back.
Yeah, his measurements didn't really look as good.
For the NBA game, did not look good for him. Measured 6'4.5" without shoes, and he's listed at 6'5" to 6'6". Undersized, but a guy that is versatile 2 through 4. He's a guy that you can switch defensively on 1 through 5. He's not going to have the size to go up against a true 5-man, but he's got the defensive prowess to handle himself. A lot of people said that it's very similar to what KU got with Kevin McCullough and him coming over. Now Darrion Williams is a much better offensive weapon and threat, better shooter, better scorer from all around. But the same type of impact that we thought Kevin McCullough would provide is something that Darrion Williams could. He comes in, if he signs, he's immediately your number 2 scorer. He gives Darren Peterson an offensive threat alongside him to shoulder some of the load, and a guy that's got some college basketball experience. So when Darren's struggling, which all freshmen go through a struggle phase at some point, even Cooper Flagg, because KJ Adams shut him down, just like I predicted would happen at the beginning of the season. All freshmen have some sort of stretch where they struggle. So having a guy like Darrion Williams would take a ton of pressure off of that. It would take a lot of pressure off of Flory, too, who's going to have just monster expectations on him. Darrion Williams would be the perfect ad. There's been talk that if he comes, does Trey White decide to leave? You figure that out if it happens. These two guys are probably playing alongside each other because KU is going with a versatile lineup. So I we don't need to sit here and talk about Darrion Williams' game. We've talked about it before. He's a good scoring option, a great scoring option. He would be a star. He would be probably next to Hunter Dickinson as far as rankings go in a transfer portal. I'd put him just above Remy Martin and just below Hunter Dickinson based on what he's done. Now, Remy, of course, struggled the entire year until the postseason, but what you thought you were getting, Remy was one of the best scorers in college basketball at the time, coming off of his junior season. And Hunter Dickinson was one of the best big men in the country. So he would be right up there with that. His impact would be tremendous. It would allow KU to do so many things defensively. The way they're building this roster, as we've talked about, is athletic guards that can defend 1 through 3. Trey White's got the length to defend the 3 and the 4, and Darrion Williams has the physicality to defend the 3 and the 4. So you get them all in a lineup, and you've got basically 4 guys that could switch 1 through 4 most games against good, decent size. And KU's got the makings of a strong defensive-minded team that also has a couple guys who can score the ball. So I'm all for it. When is it going to happen? We don't know. He visited yesterday. Visited yesterday. It's coming down between KU, Texas Tech, and NC State. NC State's making a massive push with Will Wade. My take is if he goes to NC State, he gets to be the man, and the focal point is him because he'd be their best player. He comes to Kansas, he gets to be a part of a tremendous team and learn from Bill Self. He could also return to Texas Tech where he's played his whole career. Texas Tech has added a lot in the portal already, and so there's not as much room.
I want him to come to KU. Just to be clear, I want him to come to KU. I don't want him going back to Tech. Okay?
Even though we are a biased podcast, of course, Darrion Williams would make the best decision coming to Kansas. And maybe the Jacque Vaughn addition helps sway that too, because maybe there's confidence that Jacque, being an NBA guy, could improve his development. The one thing he did say when he withdrew his name is, I'm coming back with the intention to develop better. Wherever I go this next year is with the intention of giving me as best prepared for the NBA as possible. He was going to be a mid to late second round pick this year. So now he's coming back to be, how do I become a first round pick for next year? I'm not saying Bill Self is the best at developing first round picks over the years, but he is a guy who's going to take you and he's going to tell you what you can improve on, and he's going to help you get there. So I think it would be a smart decision, of course.
Honestly, and like you look at the landscape of how this offseason has gone, if I take a step back, doesn't it feel like this offseason, it's still like we're halfway through it? I mean, there's a lot of offseason left to go, but it feels like it's the end. It feels like we have exhausted all options, and honestly, because we kind of have. You look at the transfer portal, and it's like there's literally, out of all those ranked people, there's probably, I want to say it's around like 45 uncommitted players across.
Not very many.
And there's
in
no
fairness,
bigs like we
you're
talked about.
You're gonna get an influx of guys in the next 2 weeks. There's 2 things that are gonna happen here that'll impact recruiting. First off, this is why it's also beneficial to KU that he visited yesterday. The dead period in off-season recruiting is about to come up in the next couple of days, meaning he cannot go on additional visits until the next period opens up. So the fact that he visits Kansas right before the dead period starts is probably a huge factor in ultimately choosing Kansas, which means other teams just can't do as much to recruit him at the time. But then you're going to have the other guys that withdraw from the draft. I think I said June 15th is the early withdrawal deadline. You're probably still going to have another 25 to 40 players that withdraw their name from the NBA draft in hopes of coming back to college. So there'll still be other options out there. There's still technically Dom Sarr still out there. He hasn't officially signed with Duke yet. So then there will be options, but I get your point of there's not much out there. There's not much out there.
If we miss both Dom Sarr and Darrion Williams, we miss them both. We don't have a stud that we're going to be able to line up next to Darren Peterson and Flory. We will not.
Boogie Flan decided to go to
He's going to Florida.
Company in Florida.
It's just there's nobody left. I mean, and I said it over text. We don't have to go super deep into this, but I was like, the next best option is going to be if Tyon Grant Foster is granted another year of eligibility, because he would be the guy that I would gladly welcome back at this point, given how scarce the market is. But go ahead, Austin.
Well, yeah, it's going to be – I mean, like, there is a chance that we get into that world where we don't get Sarr and Williams. So I'm fully prepared to experience that world. But, like, I'm just saying, like, there's a chance. I mean, Dave Sarr, like, I don't feel very confident in Sarr. Right now, like, things
I have no confidence in Sarr signing here, but I'm about 85% confidence.
Yeah, I mean –
tomorrow, by Friday, we'll hear that Darrion Williams is signing with Kansas.
I got 10% confidence.
At this point, I've already accepted the fact that he's more than likely going to go to Duke. But for Williams, though, I know somebody had told me he went back to Lubbock today. So I think he talked with Texas Tech for a little bit. So
and in fairness, he's probably going to give them the last chance, like out of respect for his years. Hey, here's the offers I've got. Here's what you have to get close to beat, and then we'll talk.
I mean, if he goes back to Texas Tech, I mean, that team is 1,000 times better. I mean, they got the Big 12 Player of the Year, JT Topping, going back for another year. So he's going to be a force to be reckoned with next season. I do imagine that being the case, especially if KU has to play them twice. But so, I mean, Darrion Williams, though, I mean, I wanted to ask, I mean, you know, like I feel like this might have some sort of implication on Trey White, the transfer from Illinois.
We've heard that.
I don't know if that's going to really impact anything in terms of like Trey White's role, but I am.
It really
curious.
shouldn't.
I don't think so. That's what I was going to kind of end things with on this is let's talk a little bit about lineups, assuming Darrion Williams signs here. You know, I texted you guys earlier.
Yeah.
I think Elmarko Jackson is the hype for Elmarko starting to pick up.
Oh, yeah.
It's starting to pick up. We've seen some video of his rehab. Tyrell Reed posted on Instagram about his rehab and how things are coming. They've done some behind the scene things with him. Bill Self said the other day. Now, granted, Bill Self has had a lot of offseason talk. Zach Clements looks like the most improved player. He's going to be an impact, but then that didn't happen. But Elmarko looks like he could be. So if the season started tomorrow and Darrion Williams is on this team, the lineup I think Bill Self starts the season with would be Darren Peterson and Elmarko in your backcourt. And you've got Trey White and Darrion Williams as your guard forward, wing forward players with Flory at the starting five. And then the first guy off your bench is probably Jaden Dawson, then Melvin Council, and then Bryson Tiller, Jamari McDowell. And then I put after that backup big / whatever transfer wing comes in. Because they're not gonna have just Bryson Tiller and Flory. It's just not gonna work. Now they could play some really small ball five with Darrion Williams or some small ball five with Trey White, but they're gonna give up a lot of size. But that's who I roll with. So I don't think it affects Trey White that much. And I think if Dom Sarr also signs with Kansas and Williams, then Trey White's out because he doesn't want to come off the bench and be a backup player, which is fine.
That's what I was gonna ask too.
If that's the case, if you're getting Sarr and Williams, I'm fine. You know, I have the transfer portal as much as I hate it and the NIL era as much as I hate it as a fan. What it has begun to teach me is I used to be incredibly loyal to players, and I still am, but I don't fall in love with a guy until it actually happens. And so Trey White, like, no disrespect to Trey White, but he's never played a second in a Kansas uniform. So whether he plays here or not, I could care less until the season starts. Now, if he's on the roster, come late night, if he's on the roster come late night, then yeah, I'll be the first one to sit here and tell you I'm pumped about Trey White. But I'm not going to let myself fall into this trap of being excited about guys until they're actually here, because half these guys, I mean, my wife says it, we joke about it all the time. I'm like, babe, you couldn't name 6 players on the roster right now. She's like, yeah, it's because they're all here for 1 year and leave. So that's a fair point. These guys don't stick around. You don't have your 4-year senior guys like you used to, you know, not as much. So
yeah, that's what sucks. And I think that's why KU has done so bad the past 2 seasons. They don't have those 3-4 year guys on the squad. It's just full of transfer guys. I mean, no disrespect, but I mean, like, that's how Kansas won the national championship. You had all these 3-4 year guys on the squad playing with each other for more than 1 or 2 years. I mean, that's how you build championship teams. And, you know, for all these transfers to come in and really build a championship team, honestly, I feel like, I mean, you can win with, you know, transfer guys right away, but also at the same time, I feel like you may not do it right away, and it's going to take maybe a year, 2 years.
It takes some time to gel, for sure.
Exactly. So, I mean, I feel like we're trying to mesh it together, you know, right away. And I don't know. I feel like our approach, that's why we haven't been so good the past 2 seasons.
Yeah. And that was not me saying I don't endorse Trey White's game. I think he's a fine player, and I think he's going to have a good impact here if he plays here. But if push comes to shove and I can take Dom Sarr and Darrion Williams, but that means Trey White leaves,
I'm taking that. Yeah. Hey, give me that. Yo. Give me that.
Now, that would still leave a hole in this team because, yeah, you still need a backup 4 or 5 man. It can't just be Bryson Tiller. But that's really the only holes left. You get Darrion Williams, that gives you your second star to play alongside. I do think Elmarko is going to take a step. I mean, the more I sit here and think and watch Elmarko's rehab scenarios and all that, like, I think he's going to be a stud. He's so freaking athletic. He's going to be in a different type of offense now. He's going to be pushed hard by a guy like Darren Peterson for playing time and ball control. So I think that's going to up his game even more. I think he's going to get – I mean, one thing I think I said this has been 2 years now. But we talked about how bad El Marco looked offensively. Like the game was too fast for him. He couldn't get his shot really well. He couldn't attack the rim well. But one thing I did pick up with El Marco's athleticism and basketball IQ, even though the game moved really fast, he was becoming a pretty decent off-ball defender. He was getting in the lanes, attacking the backside of a dribbler if he's backing down and not paying attention. So I think there are some aspects of El Marco's game that could certainly pick up. I don't know what kind of shooter he's going to be. He looks great in practice shots and in videos that come out of one-on-one settings with him, but
game time.
I think he takes a step up this year. I think he's going to push the ball really well with Darren Peterson. My hope is this team gets out and runs. That was something we said this last year, that if you got Hunter off the floor and ran with Flory at the 5 and KJ at the 4 or vice versa or whatever, you could get this team out and running just enough to let some of the athleticism show. And I think we saw a lot of that with the national championship team. Even though McCormick wasn't the best of athletes or the quickest of players, that team got up and ran up and down the floor. Jalen Wilson would get the board and start pushing it. And then Christian Brown and Ochai Agbaji are streaking down the sides. DeJuan's sneaking up behind them. Remy Martin's flying down the court. I think Kansas basketball is the most fun when we see that athleticism. And the way this team's shaping up, you've got a lot of guys that can fly up and down the court and can get their shot up. Jaden Dawson, we've said, he's a guy that can shoot 5 to 7 threes a game. He can shoot on the run. He can shoot in a spot up scenario, but he's a guy who's going to push the rock and get some shots up. Melvin Council's going to attack the rim. If he gets the ball going downhill, he's going to attack the rim. Not the best of shooters, but if he gets the ball downhill, he's going to attack the rim. Darren Peterson, we know he can do it from all angles. I think El Marco's going to be a downhill scorer. Trey White's going to kind of be a nice glue piece because he's good in the mid-range. I think he can kind of play the Jalen Wilson role. He can be your versatile defender. He can offensive rebound, defensive rebound, be a kind of a point forward of sorts at time, play the backside when KU has to go play a zone defense. He can be the rim runner on the backside that they used to do with like Andrew Wiggins and things like that. So I think they've got some nice pieces, but yeah, still need a backup big. And obviously would be thrilled. I think if KU lands Darrion Williams, they move from a top 15 to top 25 team to a top 10 team. And if you're a betting person like myself, you should go put $5 or $10 on KU now as a national championship or a Final Four, because I think they're plus 12 to 1600 as a national championship favorite. They're like 5th or 6th in that right now. And I think if they get Darrion Williams, that value will drop for sure. So that's what we're waiting on. But super pumped about Jacque. Been ecstatic for this, been waiting for this day for a long time. I've told you guys for weeks now, if Jacque Vaughn or Aaron Miles becomes the next assistant coach, I'm just going to be through the roof excited, because those two guys, they are perfect ambassadors for this program. Jacque Vaughn has been a successful player here. He's played for successful organizations. Now, while he didn't play a lot himself, he was in one of the best dynasties in the history of basketball with the San Antonio Spurs. He's learned under Coach Popovich. He's learned from guys like Roy Williams. He's interacted with guys like Larry Brown. Now he gets to come be on the bench with Bill Self and help continue the glory years of what Kansas basketball has been. So I'm pumped for it. I can't wait. It'll be great to see him once he gets down here and starts to interact with the fans more, and you get to hear him talk a little bit about his journey in the NBA. So super pumped for that. But that's all I have. Anything else you guys want to touch on before we get out of here?
I was just gonna say, I think with Allen signing with Kansas, I think that kind of just makes it less and less likely that Marquise Passmore comes back.
No, that's true. That's a good point.
We've talked about how we would take him back, and we've talked about how we want these developmental guys. Allen is being pegged as this developmental guy. I mean, gosh, look at Bill Self's quote that he put out there. He was just like, he'll be good in time, or whatever he said. It was like, wow, you're saying he sucks. Also, I don't think he sucks, and I understand he broke Ochai's record.
Not good enough to get better offers at the D1 level.
Well, yeah, and but look at I don't know. For me, I just want to pump the brakes on him specifically, because just because he went to Ochai's high school doesn't mean he's Ochai. Just because he was coached by Sharon Collins doesn't mean he's Sharon Collins.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hopefully he's good. I'm not trying to rain on people's parade, but I'm just like, I will take him. I'm super pumped that he's
you don't
someone
have
that
high expectations of anything.
I don't have high expectations, and I'm hopeful that he can be a guy like a Jamari McDowell, who at least so far has proven to be a program guy that's sticking around and waiting his turn, and not even waiting his turn, but just like being a guy that chooses to develop in college for 4 years straight and not transfer away when times get tough. Like, I'm taking that because I do think by senior year, maybe he's a integral part of our offense. We'll see. We'll see. But, it probably lessens the likelihood of Rickey's Passmore coming back, who is somebody that we have said those same things about, that maybe by year 4, he's just as good as Ochai was.
They are a similar player profile.
Very similar. So now it's a little worrisome that he's not coming back. I'd almost like I've
seen nothing on it. I guess I'll double check while we're talking here.
It almost feels like in the next week or two we get word on where Passmore has landed, even though there's been no word on what his list is or anything like that.
I think he has a visit with Miami.
I could see that.
That's the latest.
I could see him going to Miami. I don't know why, but they're going to offer him the bag, and they're going to offer him a new car.
Which I'm pretty sure that's where Ernest Uday transferred to as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Ernest Uday's at Miami too.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything else on Rockies.
Guys,
it's been quiet.
You guys, wait, Ernest Uday transferred like this offseason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dude, you guys.
The second time he's transferred.
We could have had Ernest Uday back.
He wasn't coming back.
It just dawned on me.
He's not coming back to KU.
I
know.
know.
He already left KU a first time. He ain't coming back a second time.
I know, but I definitely would have taken him. Could you imagine having Ernest Uday and Flory Baduga?
That'd be great.
That'd be great. I think even if KU makes that call, they say, "Hey, Ernie, we'd love to have you back. Flory's our guy," and he goes, "Nah, man, like I'm not doing this again. You already told me Hunter was coming in and take my spot. I'm not playing second fiddle."
Oh yeah, so, I mean, it's not. It would never happen. It would never happen. Like, who would even start between him and Flory?
Well, like you could. There's scenarios you could play.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah. They had to do a lot.
I'd rather start Flory back.
I mean, yeah, I would, but I mean, Ernest is older and weighs more, and
it would be like it'd be like the Tarek Black Joel Embiid thing. Like Black, you could argue could be the starter early because he's more polished, but the potential is with Flory. So Flory needs the most minutes possible. But yes, he would be a guy that, in the absence of Flory, that I think would fill that spot well. But nope, that ship has sailed 2 years ago.
I still miss Ernest, but whatever.
Me too.
But yeah,
he was so funny. High hopes for him.
Like, you see all those memes of him dancing and all those TikToks and everything with Grady. I mean, he's had some funny moments. So I do miss Ernest too, but
it was honestly like
well at Miami.
Seeing him enter the portal was one of the most heartbreaking portal entries of all time for me. I don't know why. Like, I legitimately loved him as a player for us.
It was the one that made the least amount of sense at the time, but that was before we thought KU was going to get Hunter Dickinson. Because I was like, why are all the centers transferring? There's literally no minutes here. And that tells me that Bill Self told them, hey, guys, here's our plan. Plan A is this. So if you're going to stay, this is plan A, and you are options below that. And I think they all said, no, we're all going to go elsewhere so we can try and start. Because I thought Ernie made the most sense of that group with the way Kate wanted to play.
Yeah.
But hindsight's 2020. I mean, Zuby would have been great too had he stayed and developed. But unfortunately, that's the name of the game. That's the way NIL works. These guys aren't going to stick around. You can't go from Sasha Khan and Darnell Jackson to the Morris twins and Cole Aldrich to Thomas Robinson and Jeff Withy. You're not going to have this team where that guy's waiting in the wing. It just doesn't happen in college basketball anymore. But fortunately for Kansas, every team has to deal with the same issue. But anyway, anything else you guys got?
I think I'm set.
Okay. Well, thank you for those that have been sticking around this whole time. Like, subscribe to the podcast below. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Wishing Jacque on the best of wishes as the next Kansas basketball assistant. Make sure you guys go support KU Baseball this weekend. Check them out as they look to win the Big 12 championship this weekend. Oklahoma State tomorrow, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But looking forward to that. And I guess shout out Johnny Furphy in the Eastern Conference Finals. I have to apologize. Several weeks ago, when we said there were no more KU players in the NBA playoffs, I forgot that Johnny Furphy was on the bench. Now he's not playing, but on the bench for the Pacers. And of course, Kevin McCullough's playing, for the Knicks. He's not on the roster right now. But shout out to Johnny Furphy. He's in the Eastern Conference Finals. Christian Brown looked fantastic, and he's going to get himself the bag when it is time for his contract extension. But unfortunately, they fell short. But anyway, like and subscribe. Go check us out. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok at KCSA Pod. You can follow any of us on Twitter as well. Our Twitter handles are there below. We appreciate you guys as always. Rock Chalk, and we will catch you guys in the next episode.
Rock Chalk.